All right, welcome back. We're going to get back into opinion court shortly and discuss homosexuality. But first, we want to take in your feedback. On our previous two discussions, of course, we talked about the pending ODM elections, and then we also discussed the ongoing duel between senators and governors. Let's see what opinion leaders have to say. Kip Murkomen, who is, of course, the senator, says, if the view that governor is equal to president is what Ahmed Nasir law is peddling in courts, then I feel sorry for this country. Hashtag opinion court. Let's see another tweet still from Kip Murkomen saying Ahmed Nasir law is simply lying to Kenyans. So that's the feedback, and of course we certainly do appreciate everything that you're sending in. Keep sending it in. Our hashtag is opinion court. Ahmed, let me start with that. What do you think of Senator Murkomen's remarks?
That is his opinion, but it's a fallacy. I don't think he appreciates the interpretation I'm giving to the Constitution. But I think when he says that I'm lying, I think that's beneath him as a senator. Probably that is the stock in trade of that institution. But I'm saying it.
Of the Senate?
Of that institution, yes. But I'm saying it, and I'm repeating it, that the Senate or any other arm of government cannot summon the governor, who is the head of the county government. That's the law.
All right, let's move on now to another divisive issue. And a section of members of parliament on Tuesday announced plans to summon the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Attorney General to explain why the state has seemingly failed to enforce the penal code, which outlaws homosexuality. They said gays have been coming out openly in the public without any action from the government. Three MPs, Irungu Kangata, John Joroge, and Julius Ndegwa, announced their plan to launch an anti-gay caucus of parliamentarians, and of course they're basing their arguments on section 162 and 165 of the penal code, which prohibits same-sex relations. It provides a jail term for not less than 14 years for those who are convicted. Ahmed, I want to start again with you. What exactly should the government be doing in regards to people coming out and saying, I am of this sexual orientation?
I think before we go there, I think Parliament is really becoming a busybody. This country has huge problems facing it. There's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of murder, there's a lot of issues. Is gay really fighting gays a priority for this government or for Parliament? Let us, let's concentrate on what really matters in this country. These sensational topics that crop up once in a while, doesn't help anybody.
I suppose then somebody who would advocate for gay rights would say that you're dismissing their constitutional right. In fact, they argue on the basis of the Bill of Rights, which apparently does not allow any discrimination of any Kenyan.
If someone agitates for gay rights, that is within his constitutional right to agitate. There's freedom of expression.
But my initial question is the government supposed to take any action in regards to the penal code?
That's why I'm saying the government has other priorities, Let us concentrate on those big issues. Fighting gays is not a priority.
I want to stick with you, Ahmed Nasir, because of course I know you have lectured in human rights law. So I imagine that this is close to you. What way for Kenya, where it appears that there are two different pieces of law that seem to be suggesting two very different things in regards to homosexuality?
Gay rights is a very complex, area of rights. There are a lot of rights. There are rights that develop within a certain cultural context. Most of human rights are universal, and there are people who argue that gay rights are also universal rights, and there are people who argue that gay rights are not universal rights.
What do you argue?
Prescriptive relativism. In other words, there are certain norms that develop in certain societies, then lead to a certain rights after some evolution.
I hear you, but what do you argue? You've explained the two schools of thought. What is yours?
My view is gay rights are personal rights for everybody who wants to do it. It's none of my business. It's neither your business or anybody else.
Prof, is it the business of government?
I think I didn't formally go to a school of law, but I don't miss anything for hearing what Ahmed Nasir is doing. How can you trivialize something that has already been discussed in the Constitution? There is no part of the Constitution of Kenya that is inferior to the other. If you look at section Article 24 of the Constitution, Article 24, which is part of Chapter 4, which is the Bill of Rights, gives limitations to the way in which we can enjoy this right. So even if they have a right to do gayism, you go back to the Constitution. What does it say? Article 45 says that marriage is only recognized with members of the opposite sex. This is the Constitution. It is not an opinion whether you like gayism or not. What does the Constitution, which is the supreme law as envisaged in Article 2 of the Constitution, what does it say? It says that people of opposite sex are the only ones who can enter that kind of relationship. So that means that it is already said anybody who doesn't protect that Constitution is liable for censor. So whichever organs of government that are not looking at Article 45 and Article 24, which shows the limitations, if they are having that responsibility to look after that and they are not effecting that, they have failed and they must be accused of violating the Constitution.
And Dr. Makudingo?
These three MPs, I have a lot of respect for members of parliament. I work with some of them. But for those of us in society who have regular bouts of idiocy, they kind of give us hope that we are not alone. Because like Ahmed Nasir says, this country has bigger problems, far much bigger problems. People are dying in this country. People are dying of hunger. Members of parliament should keep themselves busy doing something meaningful to this country. I really did hope we wouldn't talk about homosexuality, but now that we do, I think it is not the business of the state to legislate morality. It isn't, yeah? Because if you begin, the premise of all this hatred is even biblical, yeah? You begin to legislate on morality, then tomorrow, the Bible says it's wrong to sleep with someone's wife, eh? So tomorrow we are going to include in the penal code that if you sleep with someone's wife, you go to prison for 14 years, yeah? We don't want to go there. I mean, we really don't.
I saw a chuckle from Professor on that.
We really do not want to go there. Now, on what the professor is saying about Article 45, Article 45 talks about marriage. None of these guys are said that they want to marry each other, yeah? I have friends, I have personal friends who are homosexuals, yeah? And we respect each other, we respect each other's space. I don't want to see them go to jail for 14 years.
We are not discussing respect. Yeah? We are not discussing respect.
No, but
let's hear Professor's point. We're not discussing respect.
We are discussing the Constitution. Look at how the two gentlemen are talking. They are saying, look, this is a trivial matter, we have a bigger matter to settle. If it is so trivial, why was it incorporated in the Constitution? If we want to take this country to the next level, the starting point is not the opinion you make when you have friends, but it is what the law says. That is what regulates our behavior.
Let me just clarify this. It wasn't incorporated in the Constitution. There's the Bill of Rights, which is pretty vast, and that is what those who are pro-gayism, if you like, argue on. But there's no place in the Constitution.
He reads the Constitution like a layman. Eh? That's why he's looking at the black letter rule.
But the professionals are like you are not even doing better reading the Constitution. So a better layman.
No, let me finish. Eh?
Yes.
This matter of those, it is homosexuality or committing adultery, or all these things are in the realm of the person as a human being. We don't have to approve or disapprove. It is within that person's persona or his right to do whatever he wants. I mean, are you concerned with how other people live, for example?
Let me ask you, Ahmed. Ahmed, let me just bring you back to the conversation.
Yes.
Because what I'm trying to get a definitive answer on is how to reconcile these two different pieces of legislation. There's the Bill of Rights and there's the Penal Code. Is government not obliged to enforce or uphold both? And where they are in some sort of disagreement.
The Constitution is very clear on that.
What then happens? Sorry, the question was to Ahmed Nasir, and I'd like him to answer.
No, but I'm saying, why should the government or MPs be obsessed with one particular provision of the law that criminalizes sodomy or homosexuality when it's not observing many other provisions of the penal code?
I do understand that, but with due respect, that's not the question.
What's the question?
The question is, there are two pieces of legislation. Whether there is obsession on the part of MPs, well, they should be fixing other things. We have, I think, famine on our hands, poverty, etc. Those are all true. But the penal code does actually mention homosexuality. Yes. And so in that event where it does mention these fines and all of that, and the Bill of Rights on the other hand says that no Kenyan should be discriminated on the basis of anything, and it goes ahead to put out a big list. Which piece of law is government supposed to enforce? Should one be abolished? Do we need a review of the laws?
There's no question
what
about
happens?
that. If there's a conflict between a statute and the Constitution always prevails.
Yeah,
that one is not an issue. And for example, I think it will come to the courts, you know. this issue of whether homosexuality is a part of the Bill of Rights will come to the courts. And, you know, even in developed countries, you know, it's not an easy question to answer, leave alone, you know, a country that is developing its jurisprudence on this kind of rights. But what I'm saying is, let us prioritize our obsessions.
Do you think the law should be amended?
This is the problem I have with section 162 and 165 of the Penal Code. A lot of the sections of the Penal Code are actually enforceable. This particular one is not enforceable unless we want the Kenya Police Service to form a gay police, because there has to be an act. Yeah, there actually has to be either an act of a man sleeping with another man, or procuring another man to sleep with another man, or someone grossly behaving grossly indecent, yeah, in public. Essentially, you are going to have to require police officers or some form of, you know, people walking on the streets, looking at men holding each other's hands. I mean, it could be my brother. How do you enforce such a provision of the Penal Code in the first place? And is that where we want to focus our energies, yeah, and the limited resources, security resources we have as a country into? We already have backlogs in courts of law. Do we really want to start going to the streets looking for people to prosecute when we have a lot of cases in the courts that are taking years and years?
I appreciate what you're saying. Would you then therefore argue, seeing as you both agree that there are more pressing matters facing Kenyans, then that section of the Penal Code
no, I don't think it belongs in our laws. I really, like I said, the state has no business legislating morality. It doesn't belong on our laws. It's one of those things that was erroneously brought in 2003 when we were doing the Sexual Offences Act. It is one of those things that needs to go. I mean,
I want to wind up this conversation just looking across the pond, if you like, to our neighbors Uganda, and of course Yoweri Museveni, the president, did sign the anti-pornography bill, which is a controversial bill, and there is now the anti-gay bill, which is pending, which he has said he does intend, therefore, to sign. And you saw the reaction of the US President Barack Obama saying it will complicate relations. Ahmed, I want to come to you. What do you say to those who will argue that the US seems to be obsessed? You've talked about obsession. They seem to be obsessed with gay rights and not other human rights, so that they overlook them in other parts of the continent. But when the issue of homosexuality comes up, the US is always very quickly to speak. When it comes to Syria, we see no action.
No, first, I mean, if you look at the issue of the context of our neighbors, you can't compare us with our neighbors like Uganda, or, I mean, we are, in terms of institutional development, in terms of democracy, in terms of our Bill of Rights, in terms of our courts, we are more advanced than that. But what I have a problem about, you know, with people like Obama or even people like Professor Makamoto, I don't want people to lecture me the whole day about gay rights. I mean, there are many other issues we can talk about. But I mean, these 24-hour, even when you are looking at the Winter Olympics, it was such a big issue. I mean, there are issues that need to be talked about. When there is, you can talk about it. But I think it's also wrong for countries to talk to us 24 hours about gay rights. Yes, that's the problem I have.
Prof?
I think the bottom line is, my friend Marco Dingo has said, you see, he's saying that it's not enforceable. It is enforceable. First of all, the Bill of Rights allows people to picket. They can picket, they can demonstrate. So at the level at which they are picketing, it's right. But there is a process. If we want to have gay rights enshrined in our constitution, they know the process they will take. There will be a vote on that, and that will be done. So they're perfectly right. But where, as far as the constitution is concerned now, if we end up in having somebody appearing at the Attorney General's chambers asking to be registered as a gay couple, that is when we catch them, and that is enforceable.
All right, gentlemen, I want to thank you all for your views, but we cannot end before we take in the feedback from our viewers. And I want to thank you so much for tweeting us, texting us, etc. Let's start by taking a look at some of the views that you've sent in to us. All right, this is at Dove Katos, Tor 5. I hope I got that right. Governors should be respected the same way the president is respected. They are the CEOs of their counties. Thank you so much for tweeting. Bonnie Ton, you say Kenyans should accept that gays are our brothers and they too have rights just like the rest. That's hashtag opinion court. Thank you. Another one here, Muhahami, I think. I beg your pardon if I got that right. Don't think so. Kenyans are just minding their business and hoping gays mind theirs silently. Interesting view there on homosexuality. Let's continue to move on. Kenya's LGBTI. You say it is not the business of the state to translate morality. Thank you for your comment. Let me take another one from Kip Murkomen. I repeat, I think this may go back to you, Ahmed. I repeat, for the benefit of Ahmed Nasir law, that governors are not mini presidents. They can be summoned by even county assemblies. Thank you very much for that. And I want to thank you all, of course, for sending in your views. Continue to do so. I will kindly ask my panel, perhaps even prevail upon them, to go back to social media and to respond to all these comments. I thank you so much, truly, for your time. Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, Senior Counsel, to my extreme right. In the middle, Professor Edward Kisiangani, thank you for coming in. And Dr. Washington Makodingo, it's been an absolute pleasure hosting you and an absolute pleasure to be on air here at Citizen TV. Thank you for making my first day on air very pleasant. Have a blessed evening, and I'll see you again next Thursday right here at Citizen Live at 9. Good night. God bless.